Hey, welcome back. This is part 2 of our interview with Isaiah Leon Savage. He's running for mayor of Whittier. And we were talking about crime and the homeless. And I wanted to ask you, because there's an issue with the homeless in the parks. In fact, if you guys were to spin your image around on your computer or on your VR headset, you can see one that's sleeping under the tree right across from us over here. What are your thoughts about the issues? I mean, are they really taking, how much are they taking over the parks? I know that they've been at Murphy Ranch and they've been at Parnell Park. Has it been an issue at any of the other parks?
Parnell Park is shut down. I believe Murphy Ranch is on its way to being shut down. And it's not so much because that the homeless were there, it's because the mess that they left there is now caused a health hazard in the community from urinating, defecating, all.
Well, I heard that they have the same problems here, but so far the only one is that guy over there, but I don't see any other ones. I mean,
well, they are in a process.
Has it been an issue at this park, or have they been cleaning it up?
It's been an issue, but you gotta understand. That's why I say you have to watch the National Governors Association dinner that was on February the 9th. And California, not only at the State of the Union, was called out as being a sanctuary city. Pompeo, the secretary, called out California for being a sanctuary city because the governor of California, they have it. He's going to be under indictment.
Now, is that on YouTube?
I think you can find it on there.
YouTube, and maybe somebody.
I just happened to catch the cable channel watching the television, and they called the State of the Union.
A lot of us been getting most of our stuff off of YouTube.
YouTube is good because I'm pretty sure you'll be able to find it on YouTube. It's the
that's where I'll be uploading these videos at.
It's the Governors National Association, like a dinner or something, and Pompeo is one of the key speakers, and he, like verbatim said.
Now you mentioned California. That's the second time I've heard you say that. You referred to Whittier as a sanctuary city, but it's more like, isn't that only because it's a sanctuary state? The state's imposing that on us, and because the city council hasn't passed any resolutions on it.
Well, I'll prove it to you. Remember in the forum where Vin and Terry said that the state is mandating us to build more houses. Remember that?
Yes.
That was at the community center.
They're doing that through every city.
See, that's part of being a sanctuary city. That's Agenda 2030. They go hand in hand. People can't see that they're not separate. They're actually going hand in hand. That's part of being the sanctuary city. Now, I'll give you another fact. All sanctuary cities have their federal funding pool. Whittier had its federal funding pool over 2 years ago for declaring sanctuary city. Now, what is going on is a lot of cities, because they backed out and then were forced back in, they've been given a window right now to save their city charter. And that's what Whittier's in jeopardy of.
I believe that there's at least one city that is currently suing the state over that, isn't there?
People in Whittier need to sue the state over that. If you're waiting for the administration to do it, they're not going to do it because they're on board with these people.
Since we're talking about outside forces dictating things to Whittier, I want to go into another area here. The last couple of days, we've been looking into outside influences into Whittier's elections. We have outside investors, outside property speculators, developers. There's even outside unions, and I found out that we even have state political dynasties. Actually, the Rubios and the Calderons, who have poured tens of thousands of dollars into local city council elections here in Whittier. I wanted to get your thought on that, because a lot of people would say that that's unfair because they're diluting our vote, they're making our vote less valuable.
It's unconstitutional. It's unconstitutional because if you read in the Constitution, it'll show you where it states that no outside or foreign influence shall have any influence on American affairs, federal, state, or local. Now, that's good you brought up the voting thing because they use this, what's known as the Smartomatic. Now, the owner of this machine he's a Venezuelan national. He's based in the UK. So that's outside influence on our election.
My question is he working for the Venezuelan government? Is he working for the British government? Who is this guy? So if we're going to use voting machines, they should be made by Americans here in America.
This is true. He's working for the special interest groups that pay money to put the politicians in office here. But the Smartmatic, if anyone looks it up, they'll find out. The owner of the Smartmatic is a Venezuelan national. He is based in the UK, which means he is an outside influence. We should not even be using his machines at all. They shouldn't be anywhere in our city. Oh, but this is something I really needed to bring up, man, because now they're putting the voters in jeopardy of having their votes voided. In the matters, it's in the Constitution. I would like everybody, it's a few pages, but read it. It's worth it. It's our best weapon, especially now. In matters that have political issues or have a political nature of it, church and state are to remain separate.
Yes.
You cannot have a voting station at a church. That's mixing church and state. So anybody that goes to a church and votes is in jeopardy of having it voided because it's unconstitutional. They're technically, literally breaking the law. Now, whoever made these stations, they should have known. This is federal, state, and local. Church-state separation. So if you're going to have a voting booth, make it...
It should be private.
Yes.
Now, what gets me is that they changed it to absentee voting, and then they got people going around, like the last election. Supposedly they had people helping people fill out the ballots, but the problem I had with that is, well, how do you know they're not taking that ballot and then putting in their own choices?
Now,
and we've had reports of people going to the registrar's office and seeing piles of Republican votes, for example, thrown in the trash, and then having even Democratic candidates had their votes thrown in the trash, so that the preferred candidates could get all the votes.
Because they didn't vote the way they wanted them to vote, so they discarded it. And they should know better that having a voting station at a church is unconstitutional. That's why I didn't show up at that forum that they had there, because again, you're mixing church and state together, and it's violating the Constitution. Those two have to be separate.
One thing I tell people about, and they get surprised, and I always have to tell them, January 1st, 2019, look up the front page article, and on the front page, they featured a DACA recipient who bragged about she got involved in that, and she changed so many people's votes. Like, she'll cross out the name that they marked, and she'll put in the person that she wanted because that person was pro-DACA. And she would take other ballots that were blank and put in her own choices.
Well, you know what? I will say this.
And they were going around taking advantage of senior citizens and disabled people.
This has happened
stealing
in the
their
past.
votes.
I really have faith with this current federal administration. And one of the things that was let out, I don't know if it was leaked or let out, but this year's elections, your vote will count. The Smartmatic, anybody still using the Smartmatic, they're in violation of the Constitution. Anybody that's using the church as a voting station, you're violating the Constitution. And that's what I want to get to the voters. Like, that's a specific though. You vote at these places, you're, one, violating the Constitution, then that voids your vote. So,
and that's the other thing is that it brings up that I was talking to somebody earlier, and we were noticing that because when I ran for city council back in the 90s, city council was a nonpartisan position. The political parties did not get involved in that. And here I'm hearing the Republican Party's endorsing people, and the Democratic Party endorsed Maggie Moe over in District 1. And back in the day, they didn't do that, but now it's like they're getting involved and they're picking sides. And how many? I mean, we have one Republican running in District 1, 2 Democrats, and of those 2 Democrats, the party's going to take a side. I mean, how fair is that to the Democrat, just to the Democratic voters alone, let alone the other voters?
Well, this race is not being ran fair. That's, I'll say it. I know you can't say it, but I'll say it. They're not running a fair race. They haven't ran a fair race since they started allowing the people in the community to vote, since 2016. Everything that you said was nail on the head, spot on.
Because I mean, I grew up in District 1, over there by where the Five Points area, between Five Points and Lambert, where Maggie Moe lives now. And I campaigned there. I spent all my days knocking on the doors every day, reminding them, remember to vote, remember to vote. And they never turned out to vote. And I kept walking there even when there wasn't an election, just to poll people on what was going on in the community. And a lot of the stuff that they're saying about that area is true. There is no lighting. There is an issue with crime and vandalism. And I mean, and I thought the point of the districts, when they adopted the districts, was to make sure that people, areas like that, could have a voice. But what I found that they did is, and the Latino Coalition, if they got their plan up with 5 districts, maybe it would have made a difference. But with the 4-district plan, what they did is, they took, I call it Southwest Whittier, or the Five Points area, and they divided it between wealthy East Whittier and wealthy Uptown Whittier, and they made it almost impossible for anybody from the low-income part of Whittier to get elected. But they, oh well, we're making sure low-income can get elected. But it's like, no, you're not. You just divided. You diluted their vote.
That's why they're gerrymandering. That's what
they gerrymandered. Yes.
And again, constitutional violation. Gerrymandering was literally stopped in 1942. And the fact that these local governments are still doing it just to position themselves to win an election.
And I'm thinking it might be the same thing with Mr. Robo lives on Washington Avenue, where I also used to live on Washington Avenue. I don't know which part of which